Thanks for that, Charlie. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Farming Week podcast on the Agriland live stream from the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska in County Laois. We're here in the Agriland Pavilion for the live stream, sponsored by UPMC and Pearson Milking Technology. I'm joined by Agriland senior journalist Aisling O'Brien, technical beef writer Breffney O'Brien, no relation, and technical dairy writer Brian McDonnell as we run through the highlights and the news from the week of ploughing. So Aisling, let's start at the beginning of this week. Weather was something that has really factored into farming and the ploughing this week.
Absolutely, Stella. I think mud was the great leveller at Ploughing 2023. It had to be. I mean, fair play to the National Ploughing Association. Their team on site this week did Trojan work. There was tens of thousands of visitors to the ploughing, as there is every single year. And they had the mulch down, they had the tracks out, but they were under a lot of pressure out there. There was a lot of heavy machinery out there. But, you know, I think a lot of people, when they saw the rain the first day, you know, people might have been a little bit down. But we met great characters. But there were a lot of children who were loving it, Stella. They were dressed in their puddle suits. We met Quiva the Diva from Dublin. And she was down near the machinery stand and she was splashing in muddy puddles and everybody's giving her a really wide berth. But she kind of reminded us all, you know, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's bad clothes, you know, and we all kind of got on with it. But I met Paul Downs from Met Éireann as well, a meteorologist, and he told me that there was between 23 and 28 millimetres of rain fell on the site between Monday evening and Wednesday morning, and that site was already quite wet. And we know that from the car parks, and anybody who came to the ploughing over the couple of days, there was a real camaraderie in the car parks. We had to push Charles O'Donnell's car into the car park and push it out as well. So, and we're not the only ones who had to do that. But I think everybody tried to make it as pleasant an experience as possible on site. And yeah, look, I mean, the weather has been a big feature in farming this year. We discussed it on our panels, you know, especially the tillage panel. We were hearing about how the harvest of 2023 is still not even finished. Jay Phelan from Teagasc was telling us that. He said it was as bad a year as he's ever seen. And it shows, I suppose, the fact that the ploughing can bring farmers together. And look, if they're having a struggle on their own farm, having the chat with another farmer, at least it might lighten the load. It might not change what's happening inside your farm gate, but at least you know you're not struggling alone as well. But yeah, as I said, it was muddy, but the wellies have been well used this week, that's for sure.
Well, for those of us who've been watching on the live stream, I think that they've seen a spectrum of starting off relatively clean on Tuesday to us all being covered almost head to toe in mud and sludge as we reach the end stages of the ploughing. Breffney O'Brien, you had the important job this week of interviewing all the school finalists for the Certified Angus Schools competition. Tell us about it.
Yes, so that took place yesterday down at the Certified Irish Angus stand. I suppose there's 5 schools that have been shortlisted from a large number of schools from across the country. They received their calves at the National Ploughing Championships, and they're going to take them calves the whole way to beef. So I suppose the 5 schools that were shortlisted are Loretto Secondary School, Clonmel, Mercy Secondary School, Kilbeggan, and Skullcrease Portlaoise, St Clair's College, Ballyjamestuff, as well as Villers School in Limerick. And I suppose, Stella, what really stood out to me about the Angus Schools competition was the fact that so many students who are from non-farming backgrounds became involved in it and really, really got a good insight into how Irish Angus beef is produced in this country and got a good understanding of farming. So, yeah, basically the 5 schools spoke at length about their projects. They're all looking into various different things, from mental health to the commercial beef value, the dairy beef index, genetics of cattle, and improving the sustainability of beef production systems in Ireland. So it was really interesting to interview these students, and I wish them all the best in their competition.
Yeah, the future of farming is certainly bright. I went down to the Certified Angus tent myself and I saw the students, and anyone that came in, they were well able to, you know, explain everything that they were doing. They were so engaged. They were so articulate for young people as well. I was very impressed by them. So it's a good sign for the future. As you said, many people coming from a non-farming background and so enthusiastic about it, Breffney.
Absolutely, and it's also worth mentioning that Anna May McHugh was down there yesterday evening, and she gave a really good speech, I suppose, just saying how important it is to bring young people along in the agricultural industry, and as well as that, people from non-farming backgrounds, and give them a better insight into how beef and how farming takes place in Ireland.
Very interesting. Brian McDonnell, we had a very interesting discussion on the dairy sector with Wicklow dairy farmer Jack Keenan and Head of Knowledge Transfer with Teagasc, Dr. Joe Patton this week. Remind us of what was discussed.
Yeah, well, I suppose we've had in recent weeks the announcement that for many parts of the country, the nitrates derogation is going to be reduced from 250 to 220. So I suppose, to explain it a little bit more, the nitrates derogation ultimately allows farmers to exceed the legal limit of 170 kilos of organic nitrogen per hectare. So there was a lot of dairy farms particularly operating in a region of between that 170 and 250. Now, look, I think it's in the region of about 3,000 farmers going to be affected by the drop to 220, and Jack happens to be one of these. But I suppose when people think of derogation, they're thinking industrial-sized farms, but this is a 65-cow Wicklow dairy farm. There are 60 cows, 20 heifers, 20 heifer calves. They have 237 units of organic nitrogen per hectare on this farm, and they face the prospect of either having to rent a further 10 hectares or lose 10 cows. They've also, we've covered this in Agriland before, that they invested heavily in their farm. They built a brand new shed, new milking parlour. They actually have slurry storage for 80 cows for 20 weeks, which is well in excess of their legal requirements. And they're also doing everything correctly, low emission slurry spreading, clover, multi-species swards. They've done everything right, but they're still being penalised for, I suppose, measures that they can't, they're doing their best to help with, but obviously the results aren't being seen, as we've seen in the EPA reports. So they're being hit. So it's a big kind of question now for Jack, is what route does he go on his farm and what are his options?
It was, I suppose, disheartening to hear what he was saying. He spoke so well and he gave such a good account of himself, and it really brought the human side of policy legislation to the fore and gave us an insight of someone who's really emotionally invested in their livelihood and in the culture of farming, and really trying to do their utmost to make sure that they're also protecting our environment and making sure that his farm continues on as a legacy to be protected for the next generation. And he literally nearly couldn't do any more, and yet he just didn't know where to turn next, because he was doing everything he could, but they don't know what decision they'll have to make.
Look, he's farming in partnership with his dad. He's still quite young. He's probably obviously has plans for a family at some point as well, and he'd like to see that kind of farm pass on to someone after him. But I suppose he is questioning now the sustainability of his farm. If they do lose these cows, or they have to rent this extra land for two people to run it, to be there. As we said already, he's invested quite heavily, and that investment was on the backing of having 80 cows on that farm, growing the farm business, making it more sustainable for two people to be there. And now it's looking like he's going back the ways. It's quite sad to see. And I suppose the big thing about this is it's not a massive dairy farm. It's a small 65 cow, you're below average size dairy farm for the country. We're not dealing with a 200 cow herd that's going to lose 10 cows. We're dealing with a 65 cow herd that's going to go back to 55 cows. It's quite significant.
Yeah, it's tough. Aisling, we had all the political heavyweights as well visit us at Agriland this week. All three ministers at the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. But it was a robust interaction, if I'd use that phraseology, between MEP Colin Markey and Social Democrats TD Holly Cairns that really got people talking.
Yes, definitely. The Social Democrats leader was pulling no punches on the Agriland stage. She was absolutely, it was a heated debate in here. And
I was definitely putting on my referee gloves there for that one.
You were, Stella. You were literally trying to keep them apart, because this couch, there's a whole pile of room when people are getting heated.
It's cosy.
It is indeed, it is indeed. And it made for great viewing, both on the live stream, but also for those who visited the Agriland tent here at Stand 305. And we've had great crowds all week. But I suppose Holly Cairns was really pointing to the fact of the Fine Gael, I suppose, reaction to the nitrates derogation cut, and she felt that the party were burying their heads in the sand, and she felt that this cut was an inevitability, and that maybe that they were leading farmers to a cliff edge, doing business as usual. And she really did, I suppose, criticised the party's approach and, kind of not really thinking outside the box. And she also felt that fighting to keep the 250, how does that tally up with our green image? That green image that, Board B sell all around the world. And Ireland is very much an outlier when it comes to the EU, when it comes to, just ourselves and 2 other EU member states who have a derogation now at this stage. But I suppose MEP Colin Markey, and he's met with the EU Commissioner for the Environment, Virginia Sinkevicius, and he was speaking to us about he feels some room for flexibility there. And of course the Commissioner, we heard from Charlie McConalogue that Taoiseach is writing to the Commissioner and that he's also sought the Commissioner to visit Ireland and see it firsthand. And, Colin Markey was saying that, there can be efforts made on the ground by farmers to improve water quality and maybe the Commissioner coming and seeing that firsthand. Now, I mean, an argument could be made, Stella, should the Commissioner have come months and months ago to see this, but he also made the point that the drop from 250 to 220, it's not going to affect a huge amount of farmers, but I suppose it has to be said for the farmers it is affecting. It's going to be a huge change in a very short period of time, no more than, Brian was saying about Jack, and Jack, I think, really explained very clearly how it's going to impact farmers. But it was quite the political ding-dong between the two of them.
Yeah. And I suppose from Holly Kern's point of view, she was doing it as Colin Markey is a representative of Fine Gael. Leo Varadkar was obviously absent from the ploughing this week,
at the United
as was
Nations.
Eamon Ryan, both of them in the United States at a United Nations major congress. So they weren't here at the ploughing, and it was, I suppose, the Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil representatives then that took the flak from opposition TDs or independent TDs. But this week really kicked off the IFA election campaigning too, with candidates for the role of President and Deputy President hard at work, pressing the flesh, meeting people here at the ploughing. And of course, Agriland hosted the first live debates between the candidates here as part of our live stream. Aisling, run us through what was discussed.
Okay, so as you said, this was the first time the candidates have gone head-to-head, Stella.
We had the exclusive debates, yeah.
The hustings are coming up for them. It is a gruelling campaign if you want to be the president or the deputy president of the IFA. And I suppose Martin Stapleton, who's the current national IFA treasurer, and Francie Gorman, the South Leinster regional chair, they're both bidding to replace Tim Cullinan as the leader of IFA. And I suppose what I took from the debate was there was nearly more in common than what separated both of them. And I think the message, and it was similar to what we heard in the deputy presidential debate as well, was the need for IFA to up its game, Stella. And when it comes to communications and telling the story of Irish farming in the media, they deal with us in the agri-media. But I suppose communicating with maybe the more mainstream media and to reach out to the public and to bridge that gap between the consumer and the farmer and to do better by farmers. And I thought, interestingly enough as well, is that they felt that to do better communicating with their own members, because we've seen how many new farming organisations have been established in recent years. And is that a damning indictment of the IFA losing it at the grassroots, and that their members aren't aware of what is going on at the top level, and that gulf between IFA headquarters and what's happening, say, in the likes of Kerry, the likes of Mayo, and farmers down on the ground in Tipperary or wherever it might be. So I think that was quite a damning indictment, and, both of those, they're at a top level of IFA, so one could say that have they failed to reach out to the grassroots as well. And it was similar as well with Pat Murphy, the Connacht Regional Chair, and Alice Doyle, the Farm, Family and Social Affairs Committee Chair. Of course, they're bidding to become the Deputy President of IFA to replace Brian Rush. And they both called for, the need for better communication, to get out there on the airwaves and to talk to, people on the ground, and to make sure that people know what's going on inside the farm gate. Because I think when the general public hears things like nitrates derogation, and, we all know that there is a need to improve water quality, but it does nothing to improve the image of farmers and the vilification of farmers that we see on a daily basis. And the IFA needs to probably do better at that. And it's obvious from the 4 candidates looking for the top jobs in IFA that have they failed to do that. All of these other farm organisations that have been formed, Alice Doyle and Pat Murphy both spoke to that. I thought was interesting between the interaction between Martin Stapleton and Francie Gorman. They were very polite to each other.
They were very polite. I was expecting a lot more cut and thrust.
Martin
and
Stapleton
it was very polite.
Forgive me for saying it, Francie, but I feel, and I thought that was a shocking way to approach maybe a debate between two candidates. Again, as you say, take the gloves off there and have at it. I mean, if Francis, who was chairing the debate, our deputy news editor, asked both candidates, what makes you different? What makes you better? And Francie Gorman said, I'm better. And his supporters, and both camps had their supporters in. There was whooping and hollering in this tent, I tell you. But they both said they were opinionated and everything like that, but they were very polite. And I don't know, will that cut the mustard on the hustings? I think they're going to have to get a little less cordial, maybe.
I think it was the first out of the traps. I think the exclusive debates on the Agriland live stream. I think the hustings might be a bit of a different situation when they have a room full, one half of it full of their own supporters, the other half full of the opponent supporters, and it could be a very interesting couple of weeks with the hustings over the next few weeks.
Absolutely, and with the grassroots as well, and with farmers with their own issues in different counties, and they might feel that IFA headquarters aren't listening to them. There's different issues around the county or the country. In my own county in Kerry, there's issues in Donegal, and I'm sure the candidates will have to get some robust exchanges and have to put up with that.
That's true. Well, listen, we'll move on. And Brian McDonald, what other elements of the ploughing this week caught your eye?
Well, I suppose I would have been mainly around kind of a lot of the dairy stuff with this ploughing this year, obviously being the...
Wouldn't be like you, Brian.
No. But I suppose it's look, dairy farming is quite intensive. It's quite a lot of stress, a lot of work goes on at certain times of the year, particularly in the spring and around the breeding season. And all the companies are working on technology was the big thing. Every single of the milking machine companies or the dairy associate companies, technology is the big focus now.
What kind of technology?
Like stuff that's going to make the farmers' life easier. Like I know we've seen heat detection collars, we've seen heat detection or health monitoring systems, but I suppose one of the ones in the Pearson tent that caught my eye was the Bullseye system, which is actually a body condition scoring machine, which can be placed at the exit of the milking parlour. It can also be used on suckler herds as well. But like it can basically, takes another job away from the farmer going out and handling cows every day. This is giving you constant data on your cows. You can then feed it into your tablet or your phone or your computer, and you can pick out your 10 cows that need to be looked at or your 10 cows that are over conditioned, and you can then feed them accordingly or look after them accordingly. Like it's a bit of kit that could be very useful in a lot of farms, particularly during that time of year between calving and breeding, when you're really focused on keeping condition on cows and getting cows back in the correct condition. And obviously then again in the back end of the year when you're maybe worried about cows getting over conditioned coming into calving. So like it's these kind of little bits of technology that are going to be vital for a lot of farmers going forward. And look, I think every farmer now, or most farmers, will be using some kind of a smartphone, and they'll have some kind of system on their phone. But we're going to see, I think, a lot more farmers doing a lot more work on their farm from maybe their kitchen table on their phone or their computer where they can do it. It's quite impressive to see some of the tech that's out there now.
Breffney O'Brien, what about you? Any other memorable aspects from ploughing 2023?
Well, I suppose there was three things in particular that I remember from the ploughing this year, and I suppose they're the attitude of the people and the crowds who were in attendance. Like, the weather maybe mightn't have been that favourable on the first and second day, and in the run up to it, things were pretty muddy. But as Aisling pointed out, everybody really just got into it, got the wellies, the wet gear on, and had a good day, had a great time. The livestock was great to see as well. While not all the breed societies were in attendance, some of them were. And it's great to see the livestock as well. You see, a lot of people would come here maybe from non-farming backgrounds and love to get out to see the cattle there. And I suppose to meet the people involved, the breeders and the people in the societies as well. I suppose they are two, of the main things that really stood out to me, Stella.
Absolutely. And Aisling, of course, the ploughing is an event, and many people only get to wander around the trade stand area here for the whole day. But remember, it is a competition, and expert ploughmen and ploughwomen really put their skills to the test over the 3 days and in the preliminaries and the weekend before. Give us some details of the ploughing champions for 2023.
350 competitors took part this week. Right across the country, we had ploughmen and ploughwomen who had qualified through the local ploughing matches in their own county. Great camaraderie out in the field. Tricky conditions at the start, Stella, it has to be said. But as you said, all of the competitors, they are experts in their field. These are very fine margins. I mean, what separates them points-wise can often be just 1 or 2 points to take an All-Ireland home to a county. And I know from Kerry, winning an All-Ireland in Croke Park or here in Ratheniska, it's great for a county. It's such a boost. There's homecomings. There's going to be bonfires lit around the country now, with ploughmen and ploughwomen coming back with titles. I suppose looking at some of the results over the few days, we have full lists of results on Agriland. We're not going to be able to obviously mention everybody. Say the intermediate conventional plough class, Frank Cullen, County Wexford. Under 28 conventional and senior plough class, Stephen Tracy, County Carlow. The under 21 conventional senior plough class, Noel Nyan from Cork West. I suppose, look, you have Michael O'Halloran from County Kerry, come on the Kingdom, intermediate reversible plough class. And I think it's just a thing for all ages. And I think where we're talking about bringing young farmers, I think I love that about the ploughing. I think the lads would agree. There's such an interest from all ages in the ploughing. And when people get involved in it, they just love it. And ploughs, there's fine, you see them tuning it with all of the machinery and their spanners and all the rest of it, and they're out with their measuring tapes, and it's great because it's multi-generational. And the horse ploughing, fantastic to see it. We'd Charlie on the Agriland team went out. She met all of those involved in the horse ploughing. Richard Halloran, of course, our tillage specialist, out and about meeting the plough men and women, and lovely to see the horse plough. It's such a draw every single year. It was fantastic. Real horsepower.
And you talked about the young people there just before we finish up. One small memory that stuck with me that I thought was lovely for the week was when I met very small girls, Quiva, Ella and Lauren Farrelly, and they came in and there was the gator outside, and I was joking with them. I said, can I hop in the gator? They were in the front and there was no room. I said, I'll hop in the back. And they turned around, they're very small, and they said, no, it's too dangerous. And I was like, it was great to hear 3 little girls, from a farming background who already knew that it was dangerous,
Fantastic.
They had the sense. So that's what we like to see for the future. Well, that's it from the Farming Week podcast from the National Ploughing Championships. Stay tuned to the podcast again next week as we'll be back to normal service with all the latest updates from the world of agriculture. I want to thank our sponsors, UPMC and Pearson Milking Technology, for being our partners on the live stream from the ploughing site here in Ratheniska in County Laois. We'll wrap it up there. It has been a fantastic 3 days at Ploughing 2023. I just want to thank all of the Agriland team for their Trojan work over the last number of weeks and months, because this doesn't come together easily. It takes a long time and a lot of preparation. To all the Agriland team and the extended team that came on board for this event. And also thank you so much to the NPA, Anna May McHugh and Marie McHugh, and all the NPA staff who've been so courteous and so helpful to us all throughout the entire thing, the catering and security. Thank you so much for all of your help, and to all our sponsors, and particularly to you for watching and listening, and to all the people who come into the Agriland tent to say they downloaded the app, they follow the news every day, or they listen to our podcasts. That's what we do it for. We do it for you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Until 2024, Ploughing 2024, we'll be back again. Take care.